Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very, very special edition of Shooting Rabbits in a Barrel. My name is John Holtz, and today I'm joined by our very, very special guest, Jess Korzeniowska. Jess, how are you?
Hello, hi John.
There
I'm
she
well,
is.
thank you.
Wow, this is the tables have turned. I feel this is like Darth Vader confronting Obi-Wan for the final time. Well, that means nothing to you, either, but
way to make it dark. No, don't.
yeah. So, and how are you today, Jess? You okay?
I am well, thank you. I'm wearing my special jumper for the occasion. Don't know if you can see it. This is
Yeah.
my transatlantic jumper. This will become clear why I'm wearing this.
Right, excellent.
Yeah.
So this is a funny how do you do. So how's this come about then, Jess? So why have we switched seats then?
We've switched because I had a riveting story to tell, obviously, and I needed somebody with the skill to interview me, and it could only have been you, John. So we've switched.
Fabulous. Well, for anybody that's new to the podcast, there's always two questions that we ask for every guest. The first one is, what's your story? And the second one is, what's the valuable engineering lesson that you learned from that? So without further ado, over to you, Jess. What's the story?
Thanks, John. Well, just before I see the joy leave your eyes, I'm about to start talking about my summer adventures again. I'm talking about my summer adventures. And
Excellent.
For those of you that yeah.
You got 8,000 photographs to accompany this one.
I do. There will be photos. So listeners, I've sent the photos to John. He's going to look at them. And then I would say post-production, but that's far too fancy for what we do with these videos after we've recorded them. We will put them in so you can see them as well and you can follow along. But yes, there of course will be travel photos, which vindicates me for keeping them on my phone this whole time, despite all the storage being useless and not usable. Okay, so I'm talking about my summer adventures. For those that don't know, where have you been? And also, I went on a 2-month massive grand adventure to America and Canada last summer, but 2 months. Yeah, I know. We've been planning this for 5 years. It was a big deal. And I don't like to fly anymore. I used to, but I don't like to fly anymore. So I took a transatlantic ocean liner to New York from Southampton, transatlantic hoodie. And it was going to be beautiful, vintage, very sophisticated vibes. I was very excited. I grew up watching lots of old Hollywood films, Fred and Ginger, and there's often a transatlantic voyage. There's much mischievous capers going on. It's very easy to hide from the person you're engaged to, so you can see the person who you're actually in love with on an ocean liner. Who knew? But this is what I learned. So one of my favorite musicals is Anything Goes, and that's much the same. It all takes place on an ocean liner going across the Atlantic. So I was very excited, and the whole thing was going to be impeccable, vintage, sophisticated vibes. And I was like, I'm ready for this. I've been preparing for this my whole life. I'm going to be gliding from the sun deck to afternoon tea, the picture of Hollywood sophistication and glamour. So I have a lot of vintage things already. I even got a big hat. John can vouch for this. I got a big hat. I'm not a hat person, but I consulted him as the engineer in the hat, which big hat should I was super prepared outfits wise. This was vindicated on the first day where I turned up in this. I should have sent you that picture as well, John. You saw it. If you were paying attention on the group chat, you'd have seen it. But it was me stood by the ship in this, vintage cut dress with the V in the collars and the buttons, and very nice. And I got there and everybody else is queuing up at Southampton Cruise Terminal in like shorts and a bum bag. And I was like, what? You did not understand the assignment. What were you doing? There was one other guy who looked like he'd dressed, like the linen trousers and shirt with like the scarf draped over one shoulder. Like very Poirot at Christmas.
Yeah.
I don't know who that is, but...
He wears like a light suit and a scarf over his shoulder.
Yeah, like that. So that other guy... We clocked each other and went, yes, we've both understood this assignment. So I was feeling very smug with myself. And then that was outfits wise. I was super prepared. There's all these gala nights. There's all these theme things you have to dress for. Obviously, what you need to take on a 2-month travel adventure is your dance shoes and like 20s headgear. But I had all of that and that was all fine. I was also super prepared for everything else. So I'd read all the website stuff. I've never been on a big boat before. I've done, Dover to Calais, like on the ferry, but no such big, I won't say cruise ship because it's not a cruise ship, which was almost the subject of Shooting Rabbits, but it's not.
But it's not a booze cruise. That's what
It's
you're
not
saying.
a booze cruise. It was, you have to have certain style of things to wear for dinner. You're not allowed to dinner in a tracksuit and trainers. People did try, and they were sent away. So I was super prepared. I've read everything. I've watched YouTube videos about a tour of the ship. I've Googled forums about this because I really wanted to be prepared. I was that person on the first day who's in their room watching the safety video twice, just so I'd made sure I'd understood. And I planned out even when I was going to do laundry over the trip. I had backups so I could do sink laundry. I scenario modeled. We talked about this before on our podcast. I thought best case scenario, it's the sun lounging, pool, afternoon tea, lovely out on the deck. If it's rainy day scenario, it's going to be super choppy, going to be inside. I'm going to need seasickness meds or those band things, and I'm going to need funky teas to stop me feeling nauseous. And I had all of this. There was nobody who was more prepared than me. All of this combined. So my first night, it was very lovely. It was slightly overwhelming because it's just so vast, and it's like a well-oiled machine, and there's all these people running around to do all these things.
So just in terms of scale, how many sort of cabins are there? What's the capacity of the thing?
Oh my gosh.
Is it hundreds or thousands? Or...
It's high hundreds. I think there's something like, oh no, because there's something like 2,000 crew. I think it's
really?
like low thousand. It's like maybe 2,000 to 4,000. I'll check that.
It's a big old boat then.
And there's multiple decks, and this is what I didn't get from watching those old Hollywood movies, is I was going, how can you hide from the fiance you don't really like, because it's surely all on one thing. It's not. It's like you have some of the ones with just the sleeping quarters, and then you have ones with a planetarium.
Oh, right. So is it possible to get lost in there then?
Oh yeah, big time.
Right. Oh, okay. So it's that big.
Yeah, it's that big. You can properly get lost, and it's quite disorientating. Because some places you can only get to by going down a deck and along and back up, because otherwise you have to cut through the big restaurant, and they don't like you doing that. So it's the first day, it was a bit, oh my God. And they say like, oh, you have to go to assembly point K and you have to scan your thing. I'm going, yeah, good luck. I don't even know where my room is. So that is also feeds in very nicely. So the next morning I went, you know what, this is a big ship and I don't have to explore it without having eaten something first. So I had breakfast delivered to my room, because bouge on bouge on bouge. So, but what is crucial to remember is the very nice lady who did not balk at all when I rang to book this thing and said, with respect, I'll have the cheapest room you have. She was very nice about it. So I was in an inside cabin, so you have no windows. You're very much in the belly and the bit that's going to get the most choppy in the ship. So I woke up and had breakfast, and I had no idea what was going on outside. This is crucial. We'll come back to this. I had my breakfast, very lovely. Then I thought, okay, first day, the outfit has to be obviously as good as yesterday's. So I had on, now this is where your first picture comes in, John.
Okay.
I had on vintage vibes playsuit, strappy heeled sandals, big hat, canvas tote. There's this picture inside my old DVDs, my old Fred and Ginger DVDs, where Ginger's like stood there at this Italian Lido, never sure, like, you know, looking so, and I went, yes, this is it. This is the outfit. This is great. So I sent pictures to home. Look at this. I'm so ready for my first day on board. This is going to be amazing. And I walked upstairs and I was ready to meet the glorious sun and sea air. John, I've sent you a video of what was waiting for me. And listeners, we'll put this in for you now. Expecting fog, definitely too windy perhaps.
I can see why the no windows in your room is quite. So you've got no idea what the outside world is like.
No idea at all, other than you can feel if it's choppy or not, and it wasn't. So I thought it's obviously going to be a beautiful, glorious day, because that's what it was like in the promotional material. That's what it's like in all those vintage movies. Listeners, you'll have also just seen the video.
Be like. You expect, if you're paying a lot of money, you expect
exactly. Didn't think about I was in the sea off the coast of the UK, and that maybe the summer weather would not have caught up as soon as we left Southampton. So I was mortified. It was blowing a gale. I nearly lost my hat out of my own hands, and I was like, wouldn't this just be the worst thing in the world to have put so much effort into this hat and lose it out to sea on the first day? It's also slippy outside because the moisture is being blown from the wind onto the deck. So the sandals.
Your footwear? I couldn't pick up your footwear from the.
It was like strappy sandals, so like open toe, open foot. And it's and so I was there like, oh no, I'm about to slip over. Now, everyone else is out already taking their morning promenade because that's apparently what people do. That's what I was going to go do. They are all in. I kid you not. Outdoor wet weather gear. They went to Mountain Warehouse and said, I will take the stuff that you need for hiking the Highlands in January. And they are all hood, zipped up, waterproof trousers, boots. They're like hoofing around this, and
the full Kenny with
the full thing, and I was mortified. And then I just looked like an absolute chump, and everybody's looking at me, you know that look they give like, oh, she's brave. And I was like, yeah, stupid. So I had outed myself as, tell me you don't know what you're doing without telling me you don't know what you're doing. So I was very upset. I tried to walk a little bit down the deck, decided it just was not happening. I looked like an idiot.
So you just want to braze it out, basically.
I just was going to style it out. I just thought, you know what? I'm just gonna like, and it was just too much, and it was really embarrassing. So I ran back to my room and dug out. I had vacuum packed a lot of my luggage because I was going for such a long time and I needed such a variety of things. Yeah. So all my like party dresses had come out, but the sensible stuff for doing all the like walking around New York for hours and hours and hours was in a different vacuum bag. In there was my very, very glamorous Pack-A-Mac that I was like, I will need that for when it rains in America, because American rainstorms in the summer will just, wash it out. So that was what that was for. So I had to go into one of my vacuum bags of things I hadn't even considered that I would need, dig that out, and I went back on deck, but I was still in this ridiculous little short play suit and these sandals. I just went, okay, so I did one loop of the deck and went, I have to go back in. This is really sad. And just walked around all day with a very sheepish look on my face.
Pack-A-Mac up to the job? Because I don't know, I'm imagining a Pack-A-Mac out in the going across the Atlantic in a big storm was probably not.
It was.
It's for purpose, shall we say?
It's blue and it's got daisies on it, and it's very flimsy. So like.
Well, at least you didn't stand out.
No, at least I didn't stand out. It was I was mortified. It's also very uncharacteristic for me because, John, you always see me in this big, sensible purple raincoat, like that's for all weather. So I was mortified because I looked like an absolute. I don't want to say the word. This is a family-friendly podcast. Actually, no, it's not. Some of the stuff you share. I look like a mug, and it was very unlike me to have been caught out by such a thing.
How did you keep your book like, Jess?
I didn't take my book with me, John. Oh, actually. Oh, my God, I did.
Yeah, I know you took your book with you. You've told me this previously.
Okay, but the books weren't for me. The books were for my Canadian cousin. Listeners, this is because I'm repeatedly made fun of that I take my book with me everywhere, which I did. I don't. But I did on occasion take 2 copies. I did take 2 copies to Canada because they were requested. I didn't force this on people. Wow. So that is the story, John, that I have to share with you today. I spent the rest of the day firmly inside the ship.
How long did the whole journey take in one way?
It takes about 7 days. So on the way out, it was 6 nights, and on the way back, it was 7.
And did the weather improve at all over those 7 days? Please tell me it did.
It did. So I was going to save it to the end, but you've also got one last picture, John, on about day 4. The weather did improve as we approached.
Okay. It still looks a bit breezy on that one.
Yeah, it's still breezy.
I guess it's always breezy, isn't it, at sea? So.
That's also something I didn't get, but it makes total sense. If you're on a massive vehicle moving through the ocean at speed, it's always going to be windy.
Unless you become becalmed, of course, the Saragossa Sea.
Yes.
Anyway, Google that.
Okay.
Okay, so Jess, thanks for that. Was a fabulous story. So, I'm I know I've got the dilemma that you always have with me, which is at the end, you're trying to figure out what on earth is he going to say now that the valuable lesson is. So, Jess, what is the valuable systems engineering lesson that you learned from your extravagant trip?
The valuable systems engineering lesson that I learned was all about systems engineers and their role with mitigating risk. So a huge part of our job as systems engineers is to mitigate risk. And people think that we can just do systems engineering and it will take out all the issues, all the problems, and everything's magically fixed. This is impossible and highly incorrect. All projects have complexity and risk associated with them. It's whether or not you're actually going to be able to achieve the technical thing you want to do, particularly my work in nuclear fusion. Like, we are hoping to be able to do stuff, but we don't actually know if the technology is possible. Down to, we hope we've identified our interfaces correctly, but when we put these things together, there's always an element of risk. It's not going to integrate in the way we want it to.
So there is a school of thought that says systems engineering is all about risk management.
Yes, it's a massive thing, and I think in a lot of places we don't. I think I was quite late in my career before I really late in my career. I'm still early. Sorry, John, but I think I was quite late to the party to realise this. But it's such a huge part, and it comes into play a lot when people are trying to see the value of systems engineering, and when they go, well, this thing still went wrong. So I planned that trip within an inch of its life. I knew exactly what I was going to be doing. And I still had this, I had that validation on the first day of, oh, look, somebody else is dressed smartly and this is nice. And I was let into dinner with no issue. And I had that early stage, like, oh, I've done this okay. And then it was when I'm a bit into the project, you go, oh, no. I should have thought about that. And I was kicking myself a bit. And we also do that to ourselves on projects and go, oh, my goodness, how did nobody think of this? Because there's 100 billion different things to think about. We see this all the time, John, is that, especially with model-based, is people think that we can come in and do all their engineering for them. And that's what MBSE will do is, oh, yeah, like, it just means you don't really have to think and you can push a button and it chucks out all these different design things and you don't have to think about it. And so I think systems engineering's got this really bad rap where people think we're going to come in and solve everything and then we don't. And they go, well, what was the point of that? All we can do is mitigate the risk as much as we possibly can. There was always going to be something on that trip that I didn't think of, and that's what it was. And I've talked about this one failure point this morning, but what I haven't talked about is that the rest of the trip was seamless. It was I had everything I could possibly need. I had more, almost more than I needed, but I still was under the luggage limit for all these things. It was exactly as I planned out. I felt very chill. It could have been very stressful logistically because once we got to America, it was trains. I did go on a teeny tiny plane, but like lots of trains, lots of travel, buses, this. And even though it was it could have been a massive logistical nightmare, it wasn't. It was very calm. It was fine because I had redundancy for all these different things. We had plans of what went wrong. So I focused on this one failure point. But if I hadn't done all the planning, all the scenario modeling, or thought about my needs, if I hadn't thought about all of that, we would have been talking about a much longer podcast and a much longer list of things that went wrong. And that's what people miss, is that we're there to mitigate risk as systems engineers. It's not going to eliminate all of it. And there's still massive success. We never run two projects completely in parallel, one with systems engineering, one without. So there's masses of things that we don't even know that we have stopped from thinking it through, from thinking of the big picture, defining our stakeholder needs to begin with. So mitigate risk. The trip was still a massive success. Just that one dumb moment.
Fabulous. Well, Jess, thanks so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to sort of sit in the other chair, as it were, in this. So thanks for a fabulous story and a fabulous lesson. I'm sure it's one that everybody can appreciate. It's certainly, and again, it's the sort of thing. I mean, you said you've been on trains and planes and cars, but you've done that before, and it's always that thing. People go, isn't it obvious it'll be quite windy on a boat? And they tend to be the big obvious things, don't they? But it's not obvious if you don't have that domain knowledge. If you kind of haven't done that. So a fabulous story. Thanks very much for the photographs as well. So
that's all right.
They'll be going up on social media.
Or in the bin with the rest of my holiday photos. I know where you put them.
So thanks very much, Jess, and thanks for your time, and we'll see you all next time. Thank you very much.
See you all next time.